Welcome to News Express. The Emir of Kano, Muhammadu Sanusi II, has issued a strong warning to the federal government about what he described as inconsistent fiscal policies and rising public debt, cautioning that continued borrowing after the removal of fuel subsidy can undermine Nigeria's ongoing economic reforms. Sanusi made the remarks at the 5th annual lecture organized by the NICH in Lagos, where he questioned the government's continued reliance on borrowing despite the fiscal relief expected from the removal of fuel subsidies. He argued that the policy shift, which was intended to free up significant government revenue, has not translated into reduced debt accumulation or visible improvements in public welfare. According to him, Nigeria is now facing what he called fiscal contradictions, where subsidy payments have been removed but borrowing continues to rise. He asked why the government is still taking loans if funds previously used for subsidies are no longer being spent. Sanusi stressed that such contradictions can weaken confidence in the reform process and create long-term economic instability. His comments came amid renewed debate over Nigeria's borrowing plans, including a recent request by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for a $560 million loan to fund sections of the proposed Sokoto-Badagry Highway. The project, which spans about 1,000 kilometers, is intended to improve connectivity between the northwest and southwest regions. However, it has sparked criticism from opposition figures, including former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who argued that alternative funding mechanisms should be explored instead of increasing national debt. Sanusi, a former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, acknowledged that fuel subsidy removal was a necessary reform, describing it as economically unsustainable in the long term. He added that Nigeria cannot continue to rely on imported refined petroleum products while sitting on vast crude oil resources. He also noted that recent improvements, including increased domestic refining capacity and petroleum exports, represent positive steps for the economy. However, he warned that these gains are being undermined by poor coordination in policy implementation. He criticized what he described as lack of coherence between fiscal and monetary policies, particularly the simultaneous removal of subsidies and liberalization of the foreign exchange market without adequate monetary tightening. According to him, this sequencing error contributed significantly to the sharp depreciation of Naira. He went on to explain that when fiscal expansion and loose monetary conditions coincide with rapid policy liberalization, currency instability becomes inevitable. He argued that monetary tightening should have been implemented either before or alongside the reforms to prevent excessive pressure on the exchange rate. Without such coordination, Naira was bound to weaken sharply. He further warned that Nigeria's current debt trajectory is unsustainable, noting that in some cases, debt servicing now consumes nearly all government revenue. He described the situation as dangerous for long-term economic planning, asking pointedly where future development funds will come from if revenue continues to be consumed by debt obligations. Beyond fiscal concerns, Sanusi also emphasized the importance of governance discipline and ethnical leadership in public service. He reiterated his long-held position that public office should be viewed as a service to the nation rather than a means to personal enrichment. He contrasted public service with private sector wealth creation, citing businessman Aliko Dangote as an example of legitimate private enterprise success. Also speaking at the event is Abia State Governor Alex Otti. He provided a broader political perspective on Nigeria's economic challenges, attributing the country's current hardship to decades of poor governance and weak leadership choices. He argued that Nigeria's economic struggles, including unemployment, poverty, and institutional decay, are the result of long-standing policy. Otti warned that Nigeria's recovery will take time, especially what he described as over 60 years of governance shortcomings. He stressed that meaningful change will depend on sustained reforms and consistent policy direction, noting that economic transformation cannot happen overnight. The governor also highlighted the importance of citizen participation in democratic process, warning that declining voter turnout and political disengagement had contributed to poor governance outcomes. According to him, democracy requires active involvement beyond elections, including holding leaders accountable for policy decisions, further adding that voter apathy weakens democratic institutions and allows ineffective leadership to persist. Otti urged Nigerians to take elections seriously, arguing that critical issues such as employment, poverty, security reduction, and economic stability will be a decisive factors in future electoral outcomes. Looking ahead to the 2027 general elections, Otti said the choices Nigerians make will determine the country's economic and political direction. He emphasized that governance decisions have direct consequences on investment, development, and national stability, noting that investors respond more to policy consistency than political rhetoric. Sanusi's remarks, combined with Otti's political reflections, highlight growing concerns among key public figures over Nigeria's fiscal management, governance quality, and long-term economic stability. As debates over debt, reform sequences, and leadership continue, analysis says the coming years will be critical in determining whether current economic reforms succeed or falter under structural and political pressures. That's it on News Express. If you find this report insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And do well to join the conversation by dropping your thoughts in the comments section. I am Cassie Tony. Many thanks for watching. Always remember to stay informed and stay ahead. And to have a lovely day. Bye for now.